everyone. We are off to Dumfries. It's Sunday and we are going to take you on a journey down the confessions of a hockey shop. Now, we've got 13 years, 14 years under our belt of running a store, so we're just going to take you the highs and the lows and buckle up and enjoy.
So where do you want to start?
Well, let's start at the beginning.
So why don't we tell the viewers why we're going to Dumfries again for the third weekend out of 4?
Well, it's the Blackhawks tournament, so the Paisley Blackhawks, which is the team that we sponsor. It's their annual tournament. They run it every single year. They have a multitude of different teams. This year they've got Newcastle, Black Bears, the Irvine Flyers, the Warriors, the Edinburgh Knights, Blackhawks. I think there's 8 teams in total playing a 2-day round robin, and then the top 4 teams are going to go through to the semi-finals and the finals. So we've been very kindly asked by Brian, who runs the Blackhawks, to go down today, bring the sharpening machine and a little bit from the shop to set up a stall to reach more audiences and to catch some of the boys from Newcastle, Black Bears, so on and so forth.
So as Pam kind of basically just said there just now, it's tournament season. So because it's tournament season, we've had all of the kind of the Scottish Cup levels. When I say Scottish Cup levels, there's an end of year tournament for 4 different levels. We have the Cup, Plate, Quake and Bowl. Obviously there's a qualification tournament that's added in there as well, but you don't get anything for winning that other than qualification to the Bowl, which is the lowest level tournament in Scotland for recreational hockey. So, confessions of a hockey shop. This is something that Pamela and I had been speaking about for a while. Obviously, ever since we had started the YouTube channel, and even since we started the shop, we had kind of spoke about how we were interested in giving you guys a kind of behind the scenes, in-depth, no holds barred, well, some holds barred.
Litigation part.
Yeah. Basically us telling you what we've been through in our journey having an ice hockey store in Scotland and dealing with elite league teams and other people, stuff like that, over the course of the 14 years, and obviously we'll get into that. So buckle in, this might be interesting.
Maybe interesting, it might not be interesting. Right, well, we started in August 2011. Steven and I came up with this fabulous idea that Paisley, Renfrewshire, Glasgow didn't have a hockey shop. In fact, I think at the time the west of Scotland didn't have a hockey shop. The closest you would get would be Dundee or Canam in Fife at the time.
Or it would have been Ayr, which would have been Reed's Trophies.
Reed's Trophies as well. Reed's were the shop that we used when we grew up, because Reed's used to have a store in Paisley, so when we grew up going to Lagoon, we went to Reed's Trophies. But anyway, that's what we decided would be a good idea. Initially, with the situation that Steven and I were in, I was still in university. Steven was a partial carer to his nana and working in Renfrewshire Leisure at the time as well. We thought it might be a good idea to launch the shop as an online only facility, working towards building up enough capital to start a shop. That was the first roller coaster when we discovered that absolutely categorically no, you weren't going to be allowed to access any supplies from the UK, from the UK suppliers, CCM Power, Warrior, no matter who it was, you weren't going to be able to access them without a storefront, a lease, a shop, you know, somewhere to call your home. So that started the crazy quick journey to registering the company, getting a bank loan, producing a business plan which can only be called a fairy story at this point in time.
Yep, exactly.
We were supported by Business Gateway at the time. We were very green, we were very naive and very eager to get started. We secured the bank loan in August, and we started looking for premises, started getting stock in, on the 8th of August 2011 and we opened our doors to our shop on the 12th of the 12th 2011. Right in the middle of the season, no build up, right plonk bang before Christmas, with half a season of turnover before we hit our first off season.
Yep. That had its own stresses and strains in its own right, because starting that late in the season, shall we say, that by the time the summer came we were lost. We had, like, the business totally dried up. We didn't realise that the market was going to be, oh, hockey's finished in, say for example, April after the tournaments, or there's nothing there until September. So
we didn't think it would be extreme.
Yeah, we didn't realise it was going to be that extreme, so we ended up having to go back to the bank and refinance. Basically that gave us enough money to keep going through the summer, and then obviously when the season kicked off it went mental.
Yeah. That was the first proper baptism of fire.
Yep.
Massive learning curve, huge learning curve. You see all this turnover coming in, you see all the money coming in, you think, woo, that's it, we're rich, you know, let's run out and get all this stock and build the shop up. Probably didn't have enough forward planning at that point in time.
Yep.
We certainly didn't know what was ahead of us. But we buckled up and we ran for it. First proper season we had would have been the 2011-12 season.
Yep.
And that was the first proper season that we sponsored the local elite league team.
Yep. At the time. Greyhead Clan. To be honest with you, with regards to the Greyhead Clan, it was pretty seamless at times. Yes, you'll find out more stuff going forward in this video when we get to that point. That basically we had our ups and downs with them as well. But predominantly when Kirsty was in charge, Kirsty was brilliant to deal with. Any issues you had with Kirsty, they were dealt with.
She came from a hockey background.
Yep, she got it. She really did get it. She
knew the Scottish market. She knew how big it was or how small it was. She knew how things worked. I'm not criticising the current regime or the regime that's been there for a while. I'm definitely not criticising that. But Kirsty understood it a lot more than a lot of people. We started with the clan when they had nothing. They had not a lot behind them. We started with a very small Blackstone sharpening machine which uses dials to spinners to sharpen your skates. We bought that from Blackstone in America and imported it ourselves because we needed something to get started. We were gifted or given the Blade Master machine that we have now, but it needed a huge amount of work, and it arrived on a very cold December afternoon in the shop in bits, and it took Steven 2 months of solid work to have it ready to run. It had to be rewired, the tabletop had to be skimmed, and it had to be scoured and cleaned, and Steven spent months trying to get it ready. So we used the Blackstone for the first 8-12 weeks of the shop from opening, and then we retired it. Originally we were going to keep it as our tournament machine, and then the opportunity to sponsor the clan came up, and we gave them a deal that we would give them in the first instance for that 11-12 season. We gave them the sharpening machine, and then we worked with the team to put the next season's sponsorship under the belt for that season, so effectively paying in advance of the sponsorship. And Kirsty was over the moon. We provided them with, we had our oven, we had everything in their store, so they could come and use the facilities, use the machines, by that time we had the cross grind up running, and they didn't have that, so they were able to bring the skates down and have them all cross grind, and all the heat molds, and all the riveting and all the repairs.
Sorry to interrupt, the reason why Pamela's saying about the cross grind, there's a key factor for that. When you get brand new steels, they're not exactly flat, which means that when you go to sharpen them, you've got to spend a lot more time on them than you would like to, specifically if you don't have the cross grind. Now the cross grind facility, basically, if you imagine, it goes this way and it clears the disc, sorry, not the disc, it clears the initial sharpening off of the steel, or makes it flat so that you can then put your good edges on it. So basically, if you can imagine it, it cleans the steel before you do a final pass on it, or you set your sharpening up. Now, with regards to the Blackstone portable machine, one of the reasons why we thought it was more apt for the Blackstone at the time is because it was one of the cheaper machines, although it did come with its issues itself, with the fact that it had spinners. When I say it had spinners set at specific radius of hollow. So say for example, you could only buy a 5/8 grind, you could buy a 3/8, the sharpest it could go to was a 5/16, which is in between a 3/8 and a quarter. Genuinely, that was the kind of the way that machine worked. The discs were very, very small and very expensive, but at the same point, if you then compare them in comparison to a Blademaster machine, the Blademaster discs were 8 inches, whereas, say for example, the Blackstone discs, because it was an X01 portable machine, it was a 4-inch disc, and they didn't really last very long. Also, the other issue that we had was we could get discs slightly cheaper, although what we found was the discs that we were buying were not balanced, which meant there was burn marks and chatter marks on the initial steels that we got, until we realised that you had to pay maybe a couple of pounds extra to be able to get a balanced disc. So anyway, pass back over to Pam.
So we gave them the the Blackstone machine, which allowed them a team machine that they could take on the road with them. I think at the time they were allowed to use, or they were using,
they had a Pro Sharp machine, which was like it was basically could only sharpen at one grind. You had to change the disc every time, so it was kind of like our spinner system, but it was basically the disc that they were using was a diamond coated disc, which was like a 5/8 or a 1/2 inch, and you only had 2 different depths of hollow that they could sharpen to, which wasn't necessarily ideal for the guys, because obviously not everyone likes the same grind.
So the second season equipment manager, and we will not name any names, did he not drop the machine?
No. So there was someone, they dropped the riveter and broke the riveter, and then it was basically he couldn't do any rivets or repairs on the skates, which meant that we started doing the repairs for them, for the clan. Now, with regards to the repairs that we were doing, the way it worked was any repairs we did, we logged and got the player to sign, and then we had a monetary value beside that went towards a sponsorship for the following season. So basically we were working off cash to be able to get advertising at the clan.
We weren't looking, I mean, we weren't standing there expecting the world with our hand out going, we want. We understood the benefits for the relationship to work for both ways, because we were a blooming, blossoming, very new, very eager ice hockey store, more or less down the road from the very new, very eager, very blossoming Elite League team. It worked both ways, and in the first couple of seasons it did really work. Kirsty got us a sponsored night, we went up with our t-shirt designs, more on that later. We took some of the store up, we took our foam fingers up, we had lots of help from kind of the kids at the time, which are now full-blown adults.
Yep.
One of them of which is one of your groomsmen this year.
Yep.
Yeah, so we went up, we did our sponsored night with Kirsty, it was brilliant, it was good fun, and the first few seasons were exactly the way that they should be, full of fun, full of laughter, full of working for each other. You know, you had the players coming down to the shop.
So again, I'm going to kind of say just one little thing with regard to this is, when Kirsty was involved in it, it was a personal relationship. It wasn't just like a business relationship, it was a personal relationship where you could pick up the phone and talk to her at any given time. The players were more than happy to come to the store, get their stuff done, and we had guys who were mainstays, shall we say, guys that would be there every single week, every time they needed their skate sharpened, they would come to the store, they would hang out. It wouldn't just be a case of throwing me their steels or throwing me their skates, getting their stuff done and leaving. The guys would come and they would hang around the store, and they would...
And over the seasons we've had multiples.
Yeah.
We've touched on it before, but we've had, it started with the likes of... I mean, I remember... Sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but I remember a busy Saturday afternoon, pre-clan game. We're rammed in the shop, and 3 clan players turned up in the store because the equipment manager at the time, and I'm going to say it, he was god awful at sharpening skates. He would probably admit it himself, to be honest. He used to turn up on a Friday afternoon and a Tuesday afternoon.
It was actually
Friday afternoon and a Monday afternoon.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday with 20 pairs of skates while we were trying to...
Well, we were doing our stuff.
Yeah, while we were doing our stuff, and then I had to drop what I was doing and sharpen 20 pairs of skates or 22 pairs of skates, however many guys that were in the team at the time. All specific grinds, all different. And like I say, very specific grinds, so 7/16, half inch, 5/8, 3/4, all these different grinds. So every time that you reset the stone, you're eating away at your stone. And then obviously you're having 22 pairs of skates to be done. At that time, obviously we were the only place in Scotland roughly that would do skate sharpening, so you were, other than the ice rinks, so you're queued out the door for sharpenings, but yet you've got a pro team coming in to get your stuff done. Then, not only that, certain players from the pro team would then message after the home game on a Saturday night and say, can you come and collect some skates? I would then have to go down to the dressing room, pick up the skates, so you're talking maybe anywhere between 5 and 10 pairs of skates, drive back to the store, sharpen the skates, drive back to the arena, drop off the skates so that the stuff could get dried for the next day before they left on an away game.
Yep. So that would take you back to this busy Saturday afternoon in the shop, and I think it would have been early season, so you're talking maybe August or September, probably September. Home games that night, and we look up and they're standing Nathan Moon, Eddie McGreen, and was it Ezzy?
I think so, yeah.
Was it Lee Esters? Lee had been coming to the store at this point. I'm sure it was Lee, but I might be wrong. We looked up and they're like, can you help us? We've got no edges. And hands us our skates. And so he was like, yeah, sure. And we got them sharpened and they signed for the sharpening and off they went.
But one thing they did do, when they got their skates, the first thing they did is obviously, being pro players, they're going to check them. Checked them and says, oh my, these look exactly like they do at home, these will be brilliant. And then obviously... And
there began the relationship with Eddie McGreen, because I think Nathan only stayed for a few more weeks after that, and then he went on to bigger and better things.
Yep.
I think he came a couple of times, but there started the relationship with Eddie McGreen. Fantastic guy, fantastic family, and kids are lovely. And he would come down every Friday himself. He wouldn't let anybody in the team touch his skates. He would bring his skates down to the store, and Steven would do them every Friday. Did he not have a couple of pairs of steels?
So that was the next thing I was just about to say. With regards to his steels, he only had one set of steels from the club, so we decided to sponsor him a couple of sets of steels, so he would have 3 sets of steels. So it meant that if he lost an edge, he could go straight into another pair. Yeah, that was a personal sponsorship that we did for that one.
And the two wee boys used to come down on the Friday, and we would, at the time we had the wee net set up, and they used to play. I mean, they were in for the shop for 2 and 3 hours at a time, and it didn't take Steven that long to do his sharpenings, but the boys didn't want to leave. That was the highlight of their week. They would come down and hang out in the hockey shop, and there is the core of what we've always tried to build. And that's just one of many. We had the same relationship with Stupka, we had the same relationship with Mike Gutwald, we had the same relationship with Brendan Brooks. Along the lines we've had lots and lots of the same.
Tristan Harps,
Derek Rail. Derek and Tristan used to come down, once or twice a week, and there's a picture on our Facebook of Derek Rail chilling in our recliner with a Kit Kat, because as soon as they walked in the door, the on, the biscuits would come out, they would get, you know, the NHL would be on the telly, you would shoot the shit, you would talk about the most recent NHL games. Derek and Steven are both massive Red Wing fans, obviously with Derek's dad's connections there, and they would, you know, chat about the most recent signings or whatever was going on at the time.
Derek would tell me stories about when he was in the off season getting to skate with the Red Wings because of his dad.
Fanboy here.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Harps was a good laugh. He's always been very supportive, good guy. Matt Haywood, really good friend of the shop. Yeah, got you on waivers, Matt. Just, you know, Mustangs when you retire. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, all these, no matter what has ever been going on with the sponsorship or non-sponsorship, we've always supported the players. Because we know what it's like. We know that all they're looking for is a good edge, good equipment to go play a good game. And Drew Miller hit the nail on the head when he arrived here. Hockey is hockey. You know, hockey's hockey no matter where you go. And funny story about Drew Miller, when he came, he was here obviously in the NHL lockout, and he walked into Fife. Was it Fife? He walked into Fife Arena and went, "Holy shit, man!" And he immediately sent a video to Todd Bertuzzi and went, "Look where I'm playing." So yeah, you know what, hockey's hockey. Drew, I think, he arrived and it was the first skate with the clan, and he just looked like a rabbit in the headlights. We were talking to him and we've got some signed talks from him, and you could just tell him he didn't understand a word of what everybody was saying to him. Yeah. He just totally looked lost. But again, you know, you fixed his skates and we got really good feedback from that. So going back to the sponsorship stuff.
So what we got for our sponsorship originally, for the skate sharpening machine that we gave to Braehead, which cost us about £2,500–3,000, we got season tickets for myself and Pamela. We also got 2 boards on around the ice, on the actual boards, like advertising boards. We got put in the programme back in the day when they had a programme, but unfortunately we weren't put on the jerseys because it was too late in the day for that. The designs were already finalised. Now, fast track to Kirsty leaving, there was a certain person that took over in Kirsty's place, and Pamela had touched on it before in a previous video how that certain person thought we were a freeloader because there was nothing written down in stone from what we'd actually given as sponsorship. So this brings us on to the not so fun times of being a sponsor of the Braehead clan. So
when Kirsty left, this person took over the running of it all, and we arranged to meet in what was the food court of Braehead at the time. You know, remember the food court that had it was the DiMaggio's and all the wee windows, and so we pulled up a chair along the window and we sat down. We had a chat, and he said, you know, and we brought all our logs, everything we had done, everything we had worked for. Now we got them all to sign for everything. Everything was, you know, I'm pedantic when it comes to paperwork, so we had all the signed logs, everything that had been worked on, and a monetary value of what we had done that season, and an explanation of, we gave you the sharpening machine for last season and what we worked last season's for this season coming. And he's like, oh well, I didn't know this, and you know, I thought you were just, you know, freeloading. But the goalposts were pushed, and I think that season, on top of the work we had already done for them, we had to give them pucks, sponsored pucks
tape, with Cold Blooded Sports on one side, Braehead Clan on the other side, tape, Lacey's grip tape, so many sets of steels, so many pairs of skates. So not only were we doing all the sharpenings, all the maintenance, but we were also having to provide equipment for them as well, which is totally understandable, but we also had to give them a monetary value as well. So I think we had to spend £2,000 for the boards, but then our sponsorship in total was over maybe anywhere between £4,000 and £6,000. Now, I'm sitting there having this conversation with this person, and this person's basically calling us a freeloader, saying that we were stealing advertising from their club. When he found out how much stuff we did, he more or less shit his pants.
Yep.
When we said that's fine, we'll walk away, we will not have anything to do with your team anymore, you're on your own, it totally changed. Now again, I'm not hard-nosed when it comes to this stuff, but you've got to look out for number one. And with regards to that, it was an impersonal relationship we had with him, and
very, very just business orientated.
Very business orientated, and it was all about what money he could get. But something that we do know, and we know, but we'll say allegedly, was the next part of equipment going missing from the club, which brings us on to some other things that happened. So in the midst of this sponsorship deal, we've managed to get a sponsorship, and we've got the 2 boards up on the rink, and we get a phone call from a personal friend of ours, Andy. Now Andy was working for Renfrewshire Council at the time, and Renfrewshire Council were offered a sponsorship board, and in the conversation was, I have 2 boards that Cold Blooded Sports have, you can have one of them for free.
The board disappeared.
Yep, the board disappeared.
The board disappeared, and it came to light. Andy got a phone call. They didn't tell him it was Cold Blooded Sports Board at first. They were basically offering anything to get Renfrewshire Council on board. And Andy's like, right, whatever. And they gave them the board, and ours disappeared. One of ours disappeared off the rink. And when we went to meet with this person and asked them what had happened, it was a big story about how Renfrewshire Council came along with all this money, and they couldn't say no, and that was the position they wanted, and they had to give it to them basically, and we were very, very sorry. He didn't know our relationship with the events manager at the time, which was our friend, and when we had a chat to Andy's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, if it'd been your board I'd have told him where to stuff it, blah blah blah. Anyway, so we then went back to this person and said, well, we know for a fact you've gave our board away for free, and it was you that gave it away, it was nothing to do with this sponsor. That's one of the first opportunities that he's screwed us over.
When he was caught out, he says, oh, I've been caught, and there was no compensation
no apology,
no compensation, nothing else done. Now bearing in mind at this point we had already sponsored the club for maybe a year, a season or 2 seasons, and what we were still finding was that there was clan fans coming into the store saying that they didn't know who we were. Now for you spending out that amount of money on sponsorship, you're expecting that everybody in that arena knows exactly who you are and what you sell and what you do, and we didn't have that, how would I put it, that client base or that customer base coming to us because they weren't advertising.
No. Sorry to interrupt, Stephen, I just want to touch upon, we appreciate that there was some real big hitters sponsoring at the time. We talked very, very much to Kirsty about economies of scale. We are a very small store. We don't turn over anything like some of the big headliners they've had over the years. We just don't, I'm brutally honest, we just don't turn over that kind of cash. We hold our own and we're very successful in what we do, but retailing ice hockey equipment in Scotland is horrendous. It's a really, really difficult, cutthroat environment to work within, and we're small fry compared to your other bigger stores down south. So Kirsty got that, she understood that. Anything we were offering, she was willing to help us to boost each other. We had a lot of following within rec hockey and within junior hockey, and we had a lot of followers kind of branching out through the shop from other avenues that weren't necessarily clan fans. So she got that it worked. When this other person came on board after Kirsty left, he wanted money, end of discussion. It was just about money. There was no economies of scale, there was no understanding how small we were, and that what we were giving was everything we could give to them. There was nothing go on, sir, get the right word eventually. It did sink them, and they went bust, and they went under, because they gave everything to the clan.
While this is all going on, we allegedly had an equipment manager who was helping himself to equipment, taking brand new sticks out the wrappers, putting a little bit of tape on it, scuffing it with a puck and selling it as used equipment and pocketing the money. Now this was something that we seen happen over a couple of seasons to the tune of, we were probably down anywhere between 25 to 30,000 pounds worth of equipment sales. Now obviously we can understand that it can't all contribute to that, there's obviously going to be other contributing factors, but
a massive downturn.
The major problem that we had is obviously I was very well known in the recreational community in Braehead and in Scotland, and I was told by a lot of guys, and I seen it first hand, the dressing room being opened on our training session nights and equipment being sold to players from my team. Visors, helmets, gloves, sticks, skates, steels, the lot. Now, we're a small business, and yeah, we understand that elite league teams will sell equipment to players at the end of the year. You can't get around that. But when it comes to brand new equipment, brand new sticks that you can't buy, we can't buy as a trade for 160, 170 pounds, and they're getting sold for 80 pounds brand new to a customer. There's no way we can compete with that. No way in hell.
But the problem was the money wasn't even going back to the club, it was going in his pocket.
Yeah, but there was a lot of other things that had happened in that retrospect as well. It happened over the course of the season. We spoke to a certain individual who wasn't interested.
But we told him multiple occasions, your equipment manager's stealing from you, your equipment manager's selling equipment. They only did something about it when it suited them, and that was 4 seasons of this equipment manager. For the full 4 seasons, was he stealing equipment? I don't know. We don't have enough of the facts, but we know for a fact the latter 2 seasons we've seen massive downturn in our sales when it should have been higher. We were told first hand, oh, so and so gave me that, or so and so gave me, I got that from such and such. We know a situation that arose with a set of goalie pads that were sold on, and said goalie came back